So today we are here again for our next Organon class. So we have done till Aphorism 271. So we will be starting from Aphorism 272. So we will be talking about now the laws of single dose and the dosage, how the dosage should be given. We will be talking about those things in the next coming aphorisms. So we'll start with the law of single dose, single remedy, why it should be given. So we'll start with it. So aphorism 272. So Dr. Hahnemann gives a very strong instruction here. He starts with that in no case. So in any kind of case, whether it is acute, whether it is chronic, whether it is some kind of emergency, or any kind of case regarding to where we are going to prescribe a medicine. So in no case is it requisite to administer more than one single simple medicinal substance at one time. So we cannot give more than one single simple medicine at one time. It is against the basic laws of homeopathy. Mixing many medicines, giving two medicines or three or four medicines at one time. Many homeopaths, they claim that they get results with those kind of prescriptions. So in such a case, we have to first define result. What is result? For example, if a patient is suffering from common cold and we are giving a mixture of medicine to that patient, and after 1 or 2 days, the cold subsides, that is not a result. After 1 or 2 days, common cold usually goes on its own also. Okay. So first we have to define result, what we call as the result. Okay. For that, we have to again go for to the aphorism 2. There it is said that what the cure is, what Dr. Hahnemann means by cure, what the cure should be. The annihilation of disease in its whole extent and in the rapid time. A common cold usually it takes 2 or 3 days to get better, but the medicine which we have given, that should be the cure should come more quicker than that. So in no case is it requisite to administer more than one single simple medicinal substance at one time. So it is very much against the basics of homeopathy to give more than one single simple medicine at any time. So some homeopathists have made the experiment in cases where they deemed one remedy homeopathically suitable for one portion of the symptoms of a case of disease and a second for another portion, of administering both remedies at the same or almost at the same time. Okay. So even at his time, many doctors, many physicians, they started doing it. They started, like, for example, there is a case, there is a case, there are symptoms, and one remedy seems better for one set of symptoms and the another remedy seems better for the another set. So they used to give two remedies at the same time or almost at the same time, like with a difference of 1 hour or 2 hour, or one in the morning and one in the evening. So to understand all these things, why we should not do, we have to understand the basic law of nature. We have already done that thing in the aphorisms which were done previously in the starting, where we talked about that the more stronger medicinal force, it extinguishes the lesser one, and we have talked about the primary and secondary action of the medicine. Okay. So if we understand those concepts very clearly, it would not come to any rational mind of a physician that this thing can be possible. So, but I earnestly deprecate such a hazardous experiment. Deprecate is disapprove. He said that I disapprove that kind of hazardous experiment. He has used the word hazardous. Hazardous means it is dangerous. Giving medicine in that way is dangerous for the patient, which can never be necessary through, it may sometimes seem to be, it should be thou, not through, but thou. Thou, it may sometimes seem to be of use. So in our mind, in our somewhere in our imagination, it might seem that it is okay, like to give two medicines, because uh, when at Dr. Hahnemann's time, even the doctors, they were coming with an allopathic background. Okay, they were coming to homeopathy with an allopathic background. So with an allopathic background, it is okay to give two or three medicines for two or three different sets of symptoms. So you can give at one time those two or three medicines for different set of symptoms. So they used to give. So when they were coming to homeopathy to practice homeopathy, they thought that it will be the same thing. But we have to understand this, that the basic concept or the philosophy of the homeopathy is completely opposite. Here we are not curing those different set of symptoms. We are curing the sick, the person who is producing all those symptoms. Okay, so that person who is producing all those symptoms at that particular time, he can only belong to one remedy which has a definite causation and a definite effect on the body in the form of symptoms. So if though that is matching homeopathically with any medicine, then we only give that particular one single simple medicinal substance at that particular time. So that is why when we come into homeopathy, we have to uh, kind of forget everything which we have studied or which we have understood in the allopathic field of medicine. It is very important because they are completely opposite. Those that mentality cannot be used in the system of homeopathic medicine. So in homeopathy, we cannot give more than one single simple medicinal substance at one time. We cannot mix two or three medicines. We cannot mix, different kind of uh, this irrational use of the medicine, like giving one medicine in the morning, second in the afternoon, and third in the evening. This is not uh, pres- this is not advisable, and this is actually against the basic principle of homeopathy. So it should not be done. That is why Dr. Hahnemann has used this word hazardous. I have repeated this many times, that all these things, all these experiments, Dr. Hahnemann have done, and all the results he has gotten from those experiments, he has cautioned the physicians, the homeopaths, time and again in the organon, that don't do this. This is hazardous, so don't repeat it. So it is not conceivable how the slightest dubiety could exist as to whether it was more consistent with nature and more rational to prescribe a single well-known medicine at one time in a disease, or a mixture of several differently acting drugs. So Dr. Hahnemann is asking a question to the physician who is reading this aphorism, that how can a slightest doubt, even a small doubt, how could that exist in a rational mind, that one single simple substance should be given at one time? When we are looking, when we now we have reached the aphorism 273, if we look at the organon which we have read and which we have understood till now, what we are doing is, we are taking the whole set of symptoms, which we call as the totality of the symptoms, and we are finding a remedy which fits the maximum of the totality, or the totality of the characteristics. Whatever the characteristic symptoms are there, their totality, it should be matching with the medicine which we are going to give. So if I am very good in understanding which are the characteristics, I am very good in materia medica, I understand my materia medica, and I have this ability to find one remedy which basically fits the picture of the disease which is presented in front of me. why would I think of giving any other medicine rather than that particular medicine? Or why I would think about giving two or three or four medicines rather than giving one that single medicines? Because in Materia Medica, when the proving was done of one single simple substance. So the Materia Medica which we have, when we read at the Materia Medica of some particular medicine, we are reading about the effects of that medicine on a healthy human being. We don't know how two medicines act or three medicines act on a healthy human being, because that is a kind of experiment which Dr. Hahnemann, initially when we started with the proving, he said this thing, that if you want to know the pure effects of one medicine, you should experiment with one medicine. So when we are talking about the purity, when we are talking about the truth in itself, that we need a true picture. So we have done true experiments regarding those to get those pictures. So now how we can mix those experiments and give medicines with that kind of mixture or differently acting drugs. The medicines, they are differently acting. For example, one medicine, I have many times given these examples of some kind of these patents which are sold in the market, or there are some kind of mixture which the doctors give. If you look at the material, this, if you look at the materia medica of those medicines, they have completely opposite actions. So if you give two medicines to a patient who have completely opposite actions, what will be the primary action of those medicines? What will they do to the body? Only a mind or a physician who has a mind which do not understand how the materia medica works can think of such a thing. So this lack of knowledge of our philosophy, the understanding of materia medica, that how this materia medica came into existence, that gives this kind of, only that kind of mind can think that this is a rational thing to do, this is the right thing to do, or this is an okay thing to do. Anyone who is very well versed in the science of homeopathy will never do such a thing. So as the true physician finds in simple medicines administered singly and uncombined all that he can possible desire, artificial disease forces which are able by homeopathic power completely to overpower, extinguish, and permanently cure natural diseases. So he's saying that in the medicines, in a single simple medicine, you can find that power which can basically completely extinguish the disease and permanently cure the patient of the natural diseases. Okay. So when a true physician who understands the philosophy, who understands the materia medica, who understands how his medicine is going to act, all that he can possibly desire, what he desires is to cure his patient, and that can be done with one single simple medicine. He will, mindful of the wise maxim that it is wrong to attempt to employ complex means when simple means suffice. So there is a maxim, there is a saying that if a simple mean of doing something is there, don't do something which is complex. If there is a simple, you have a glass and you have a water bottle, there's a simple way to put the water in the glass from the bottle. Don't use any kind of complex means. Don't put it in some jug and then use the jug to pour it in the glass. That is unnecessary. We have underrated simplicity in our today's world, in our this world. Simplicity, if we say that he's a very simple person, we have we think that okay, if he's a simple person, he might not be an intelligent, or he might not be, you know, like he might not be, he might be an okay person. Simple person means an okay person. Yeah, everyone wants to be important rather than being simple. So for that importance, we create complexities. We complicate our lives with some kind of things which might make us important or make us feel important. We have underrated the simplicity, the simple means of living, the simple means of thinking. We have underrated them. But that simplicity is the key to everything. The more we complex things, the more we get confused around those things, the more those things don't make any sense. They seem irrational. It is a saying that simple things are rational. Anything which is simple, truth is simple. Okay. It is a saying that truth is a very simple thing. So simple things are rational. Truth is a rational thing. So when we complicate the things, when we make the things complex, they are always going to give us very bad results. So there's a simple single substance which should be used singly in simple manner. So why we need to complex it? Why we need to make two or three mixtures or mixtures of many medicines to give it to the patient? So never think of giving as a remedy any but a single simple medicinal substance. So a true physician who knows that I have in these medicines those powers that can cure the diseases of the patients. So he will never think of doing any such thing of mixing the remedies. He will always know that my single simple medicinal substance is more than enough to cure my patient. For these reasons, although because even though the simple medicines were thoroughly proved with respect to their pure peculiar effects on the unimpaired healthy state of a man, it is yet impossible to foresee how two and more medicinal substances might, when compounded, hinder and alter each other's actions on the human body. So, Dr. Hnuman is saying that during the provings, we have learned the pure peculiar effects of each and every medicine. We know that. And when we are mixing those medicines, we know that these medicines producing different kind of effects on a human body, they're going to hinder and alter each other's actions. Whatever one medicine is intended to do in the human body, whatever it is going to produce in the human body, the other medicine is going to alter it. The other medicine is going to hinder it. If we are not going to think that deeply, then we ought not to become homeopathic physician. It is better to do something else, because it is not uh, a thing which you need a very big intellect to understand. It is a very simple thing. Very simple thing. Two medicines have different actions. If you give those two medicines, they are going to produce different kind of actions in the human body, because the human body, the vital force, it cures in the secondary action. So if we are producing a confused state of an artificial disease in the human body, the vital force is going to give a confused result out of it. And because, on the other hand, a simple medicinal substance, when used in diseases, the totality of whose symptoms is accurately known, renders efficient aid by itself alone if it be homeopathically selected. When we give a simple medicinal substance, okay, even in the disease states, we know the totality of that simple substance. We know in the materia medica what kind of symptoms they produce during the proving. Hence, they have the power to cure those symptoms. So we know that thing, and that way we can efficiently, accurately aid the patient. We have that power which we can use with more accuracy, because we don't know how two medicines act, and it is impossible to know that thing. If you, for example, if you in the proving give two medicines to a particular patient, how would we know that which symptoms are of which medicine, how they are acting? How would we know that? And supposing the worst case to happen, and if we give a single dose, for example, simple single dose, and the worst case happens, what is the worst case? That it was not chosen in the strict conformity to similarity of symptoms. So the medicine was not right, it was a wrong remedy. The medicine was not chosen according to the complete similarity of symptoms. If we give a single simple substance, and therefore does no good, and it does not do any good, like we have already discussed, if your medicine is not right, then it will not produce any change. If it is a partial medicine, then it will produce a slight change. It is yet so far useful that it promotes our knowledge of therapeutic agents. If you can understand in this thing, and I have seen many times this thing in my patients, in the cases which come, that when we give, like we have already talked about this thing, that when you give a medicine to the patient, there is a homeopathic aggravation. So many times in sensitive patients, some new symptoms come which belong to the patient. So it is also a very good way to understand materia medica. If you don't have the time or that kind of energy to go into the provings, this is again a way of proving. The medicine, they show some kind of new symptoms in the patient. Recently I gave manganum mat to one of my patients. She was a lady around 40 years old, 42 years old. So I gave her manganum mat, and she started complaining of having this suffocative attacks in sleep. Okay, anxious, anxiety and suffocative attacks in sleep, after the dose was given, around 2 days, 3 days after that, and it remained for 1 2 days, and then it subsided. So it is a symptom of manganum mat, and I got a clear picture of how the patient will feel during that particular attack. Now if someone comes with those kind of symptoms to me, in my mind, in my learning, there is a picture, a live picture of how a magnum met patient feels when they have these kind of suffocative or anxious attacks in the night during the sleep. So even if your medicine has produced some new symptom, that is a way of knowing that medicine, way of learning. So he's saying that even if that kind of medicine, it does not prove to be good, it is not homeopathic to the disease which is in front of us, to the patient who is in front of us, but it will promote our knowledge of therapeutic agents, because by the new symptoms excited by it, in such a case, those symptoms which this medicinal substance has already shown in experiments on the healthy human body are confirmed. So they are confirmed, and you get to feel that thing. Like I told you, that experience is a biggest teacher. So when you experience that kind of expression of the patient, the way she felt, now any time during my lifetime, if a patient comes with that kind of symptoms and that those kind of feelings which she felt at that time, magnum will be the first remedy which will come to my mind, because I have seen now. So this is the advantage. Like I always say to the doctors, I always encourage the students that, okay, you learn, but start seeing the patients. If you want to learn, you need to see the patients. There is no other way of learning homeopathy. It is a practical science, and you have to practice it. If you give ignitia to a sensitive patient, you feel like, okay, he's ignitia. Even though if the patient is not ignitia, there might be few symptoms which will come up after the medicine, which you can learn as that these are the symptoms of ignitia. You will get a live picture of that thing in front of you. So it is a beautiful experience which we should understand. So footnote to aphorism 274: when the rational physician has chosen the perfectly homeopathic medicine for the well considered case of disease and administered it internally, he will leave to irrational allopathic routine the practice of giving drinks or fermentations of different plants, of injecting medicated glisters, and of rubbing in this or the other ointment. So when, again the same thing which we started with, that when a physician is rational and he knows how the homeopathy works, how I have to give medicine, he will leave all the other things which seem irrational. Any kind of giving this some kind of some tonics, or giving some drinks, or using some fermentations, or injecting something, okay, or rubbing the ointment, because he knows that a medicine which is given internally, it will only help the patient to get better. So the main purpose of this organon is also to bring the rationality to the physician. If a physician is having adequate intellect, they can see through the truth which is being told, because this truth comes from the experience. Like I just shared you with you my recent experience of manganum met. So Dr. Hahnemann has written this aphorism that this kind of thing might come, some new symptom might come, and you can learn from that thing. But it became truth for me when I see those kind of things happening in front of me in my practice. And when you see those things, then you start believing on the organ more and more. These words, they become alive in front of you. That yes, whatever he has written, whatever he has said, it happens. It happens in the exact same way. Once you start giving small doses, once you start giving one globule to the patient, you will start seeing that yes, this one medicine or this one globule was perfect, and the cure started, and it kept on going, and the patient started becoming healthy. So we all need to see the patients do these kind of things in the clinic and start understanding the homeopathy in a more perfect way. The suitableness of a medicine for any given case of disease does not depend on its accurate homeopathic selection alone, but likewise, now we are going to the dosage part, the proper dose part. Okay, so from single remedy, from single medicine, now we're going to the dosage part. So he's saying that the suitable of medicine not only depend upon the homeopathicity, the accurate homeopathic selection, but on the proper size or rather smallness of the dose, that how small the dose is. If we give too strong a dose of a medicine, which may have been even quite homeopathically chosen for the morbid state before us, it must not with notwithstanding the inherent beneficial character of its nature, prove injurious by its mere magnitude. We have already talked about this thing, but here Dr. Hahnemann will talk more in more detail about the dosage. So he's saying that uh, if your medicine is homeopathically right, you have chosen a quite right remedy. The remedy is completely right, but the dose is too big. The dose is too strong. Rather than being beneficial, because a homeopathic remedy, if you have chosen a suitable homeopathic remedy, a right homeopathic remedy, it will be beneficial. It will start curing the patient. So if the dose is too large, rather than being beneficial, it will prove to be injurious. It will cause more injury. It will aggravate the symptoms to such an extent that the patient will be in a quite stressed state. So prove injurious by its mere magnitude and by the unnecessary, too strong impression which by virtue of its homeopathic similarity of action it makes upon the vital force which it attacks, and through the vital force upon those parts of the organism which are the most sensitive and are already most affected by the natural disease. So for example, someone is having pains in the arms. The patient is suffering from that symptom. He is already suffering from that. When you give a right remedy, homeopathic remedy, right remedy, but in a large dose, and it produces a homeopathic aggravation on the same parts of the body, because it is going to, produce the primary action on the same symptoms which are already present there. So that magnitude of the pain which will increase after that dose, it will weaken the vital force more further. It will not strengthen it. A small stimulation will strengthen it, but an unnecessarily large stimulation will weaken the vital force. Okay. So this we have to understand about the dosage of the homeopathic remedy, that too large doses, and if they are homeopathic, they can be very, very dangerous for the patient. So along with the homeopathicity, along with the similarity of our medicine to the disease, to the symptoms of the patient, it needs to be a very small dose. Also, it should not be large dose. Okay. So for this reason, a medicine, even though may be homeopathically suited to the case of disease, does harm in every dose that is too large. The more harm, the larger the dose. And by the magnitude of the dose, it does more harm the greater its homeopathicity and the higher the potency selected. So the dose, if it is more homeopathic, it will do more larger dose. Damage. Okay, if you give a remedy which is unhomeopathic, not right, it will not produce any kind of damage with a large dose. And we don't want to give an unhomeopathic remedy. Why would we want to give a remedy which is not going to cure the patient? We want to give a remedy which is homeopathic, which can cure the patient, but that will do more damage if it is given in a large dose. And it does much more injury than an equally large dose of medicine that is unhomeopathic and in no respect adapted to the morbid state. Okay, so it will do more damage than a remedy which is unhomeopathic. For in the former case, the so-called homeopathic aggravation, that is to say, the very analogous medicinal disease produced by the vital force stirred up by the excessively large dose of medicine in the parts of the organism that are most suffering and most irritated by the original disease, which medicinal disease, had it been of appropriate intensity, would have gently affected a cure. If the medicinal disease, if the dose would have been very small and the stimulation had been very gentle, it would have cured that disease. But now, because the dose is too large, so it rises to an injurious height. The intensity of that suffering will be like a new injury for the patient. The patient, to be sure, no longer suffers from the original disease, for that has been homeopathically eradicated. So even if you give a large dose, the natural disease or the original disease will be eradicated. But now he's suffering all the more from the excessive medicinal disease and from useless exhaustion of his strength. But now the patient is suffering from the effect of the medicine, the homeopathic aggravation, and it will be very strong. Okay, so we have to understand this thing, that along with the homeopathicity, okay, along with the similia similibus currenter, the dose should be very small so that it does not cause suffering to our patient. The aphorism 2 says that the cure should be gentle. So we should do every effort to make the cure a gentle one. Okay. So the footnote to aphorism 276, the praise bestowed of late years by some few homeopathists on the larger doses is owing to this: either that they choose low dynamizations of the medicine to be administered, as I myself used to do 20 years ago from not knowing any better, or the medicine selected were not perfectly homeopathic. So he's saying that nowadays many homeopaths, they are praising large doses and to give it in the low dynamization. So he said that I have been using it like 20 years ago, and I know better that it is not a way to give the medicine. Okay, so that is what I was saying, that Dr. Hahnemann has cautioned again and again that I have done these things. Don't do it again. So he's saying that either the medicine is not perfectly right, okay, or even in the sixth edition, he has also added that the way the medicine is made is very poor, that it is not the right way to make a homeopathic medicine, and that is why those large doses are not causing any kind of effect on the patient. So we have to understand in these aphorisms two main things. The one, whenever we give a medicine, it should be a single simple substance of medicine. Second, that the medicine which we are giving, with being homeopathic, the dose should be very small. It is very important to effect a permanent gentle cure, the ideal cure which we want to happen in our patient. So today we will stop at aphorism 276. And first of all, I would like to apologize that we have been inconsistent with our schedule from past few months. There are many reasons for it. There have been many things which are happening, uh, good things which are happening, some kind of travelings or some kind of other schedules which are taking up the time. But now we are near to the end of what we have started. It was a big project, but we are near to the end. So we will try to complete it as soon as we can. With that said, next Wednesday again, I will not be here. So I will be traveling next Wednesday again. So from that onwards, we will try to keep it on schedule. So again, like always, like I will say that go back, read these aphorisms, and try to understand those simple things which Dr. Hahnemann is trying to convey to us through these words. They are very simple things to understand. Very simple. If you come to this part of the medical science, the homeopathic part, it will become very simple and very rational to understand any kind of thing which you want to understand regarding the human body, regarding the disease, and regarding its cure. Okay. So, with that, I will take your leave. Very good night to all of you, and thank you. Thank you so much.